Hello everyone. Today we're going to start working on making a Blythe with closed eyes. We're going to have to make use of some epoxy to do this, so I'm using my epoxy sculpt for that, and I'm also going to be using this icy Blythe, which I bought at AliExpress because I didn't want to mess up a real Blythe. So we're going to be using this factory doll, and I've already taken off her head and the body, so we just have the front and back of the head. So to get rid of the back, we're going to just have to pull this spring off. And I don't even keep the spring because we're going to put, you know, the extra pull on it to have the sleepy eyes, so I don't, I don't foresee ever needing the spring. So also, I want to cut off this pull string here so we can completely detach the back. And unless you feel like you want this, you can throw that away too. I'm going to put the back aside for now, and the next thing is to remove this flipperdoodle. I don't know the technical name. We're going to call it a flipperdoodle. And that's the thing that catches on the eye mechanism so that it can change the eye pieces. We're just going to take that completely off because we don't need it, and we can put it back on later. We're going to have to cut it also to adjust the gaze of the doll to a little bit of an upward. Alright, so we'll pop that off and put that aside somewhere where hopefully we'll remember where I put it. Now I want to take this eye mechanism out, and basically I do that by stretching these pieces apart because you have this connection here where the little pole fits into that hole on either side. So once you get one side out, you can and you know, if you can't do that with your hands, you can you can do it with something that you can pry up. Sometimes I do this and it pops right off, and then other times when I do it like this and it doesn't. Alright, so we got the eye mechanism out, and typically I'm just going to pull the eyelashes out because we'll be replacing those. And eventually I'll have to pop out these old eye chips because I end up using new ones, but for right now we're just going to be working on this front piece. So the first step is to sand off the color, and that's because we can't use acetone. It'll melt the plastic. So I'm using these sanding blocks that are for nails that I buy in bulk on Amazon, and we're just going to start sanding. Alright, we got her all sanded off, and I need to correct something I said earlier. I took the eye mechanism out, and I was like, you know, and we don't need the spring and all that stuff because we're going to put in the other pull. We're not going to put in any pulls. Sorry, I keep forgetting. We're not doing a regular Blythe. We won't even need this eye mechanism because we're going to make a closed eye Blythe. So forget what I said about that. Alright, so how are we going to do this? Well, I bought these wooden balls in all different sizes from Amazon, so I think I can use one of them behind here to be sort of like the eyelid. I think that's the right size. Let's see if there's any bigger ones in there. That's the biggest one actually. Okay, so that's what we're going to use. Alright. Now, what is it going to look like? Good question. I found this picture of one that I sort of like, and it's going to incorporate a couple of different things. First of all, the closed eyes, so we'll have to epoxy that. But also I like the way the lips are done, the sort of, you know, pulled in lips. I don't really like the drippy nose, but, you know, I'm just like using this to kind of show you what we're aiming for. It'll be our own design when we finish. So the first step is going to be to create some epoxy over these wooden balls so that we have a closed appearance of an eyeball. Now, to do that, we're going to have to put some aluminum foil over the eyeballs so they don't stick. So, grab a little piece of aluminum foil and we'll put that over the eyeball. And go over the other one. Now, it doesn't really matter that this is not smooth because this will be on the back of the epoxy. Okay, so what we're going to do is position them in the eyes to be the basis of our closed eye, so we have something to mold around. Okay, so we're going to have to tape these in. So use some packing tape. Hopefully this is going to work. Cut this. Oh, she looks like a space creature. Okay. And we'll tape this down. All right, now we're not going to be able to press too hard on this because they're not really taped down, you know, so securely that you can really press on it, but it's enough to give us some structure. So the next step is to mix up some epoxy. This is 2-part epoxy, and you're supposed to use gloves. Just saying. You should. Why don't I? I don't know. Just don't like wearing gloves. This one has kind of got a little bit hard. So I'm going to spray some water on it. But you want to get 2 balls that are the same size. So a little bit more of this. That's pretty good. I'm going to spray some water on this one. I'll spray that one. All right. Now, with this epoxy sculpt, you really want to make sure you get it blended really well, because if you don't, it's not going to set up properly. So avoid being in a hurry here. Just keep right on mixing. Make sure you press it really hard till you know you have a really uniform color and it's pretty pliable, and I'd say mix it for a good couple of minutes, 2 to 3 minutes even. If you have the time, just make sure you have it nice and mixed. If you don't, it's not going to harden properly. So I've done this before, and I've spent a lot of time carving something and molding something and set up overnight, and then the next day it wasn't really hard, and I realized I hadn't really taken the time to mix it properly, and that's what happens. So you want to have some water available, because the way to not have something stick to this is water. So I'll usually have a little cup, and I'll have a spray bottle. So I'll put some water in this because A lot of times I'll use a molding tool like that, and I can just dip it in some water, that way it won't stick. Or even your fingers if you're wanting to smooth over something. Okay. So we have enough here to do both of the eyes for sure. Maybe even more than we need. So I'm going to pull off a little bit for one eye and make sure it's well blended. And then I want the bottom part to be smooth, because that'll be the bottom of the eyelid. You see what I'm saying? That this part right here. Yeah. So so you can gently kind of press down. Get rid of any excess that you squish off. You're going to be able to sand this, so don't worry that it's not, 100% smooth. Although the smoother the better, because less sanding is good. So we just want to sculpt out this part around the top of the eye. I'm just putting some water on it to help this tool slide over it easier. That way you don't have to press too hard and hopefully not push out the back. So we got a lot of clay that we're going to have to get rid of. So just keep working gently. And, you may need to spread a little more water. Starting to take shape. Now, obviously, there's different ways you can do this. You can, in terms of the style that you want. But basically you want to have like a dome shape, because you got the eyelid allegedly behind it, and then smooth across the bottom. And you might want to have a picture of like a real child, because these are obviously very childlike Blythe dolls. So get it, like a sleeping child, to see what it looks like. And I'm just gently smoothing over the top. Try to get rid of any clay or epoxy that's on the sides, because it'll dry hard and then you'll have to sand it down. So when you get it where you think you like it, just go over it with your finger and some water to really smooth it that, one final time. And then you will have a whole lot less sanding to do. Alright, look at it from all sides, make sure it's the shape you want. And then we'll do the other side off camera and be back and let you see how they look together. Of course, the hardest part here is getting the two eyes to look the same. So that's why it takes longer to do the second eye than the first eye, and that's why I did it off camera. But basically, I think they're pretty close to looking the same in terms of the shape. The protrusion of the eyelid should be about the same. The shape. So, this is the crucial time. I think they look pretty similar at this point. So what I want to do now is sort of clean up a little bit. So I'm going to spray some water on this paper towel and kind of go over the areas where I no doubt got some of the epoxy in a thin layer, and just try to clean it up, because these are all areas you'll have to sand pretty good to get off the residue if you don't. And it's very easy to get the extra on there because you're kind of smooshing it around with your fingers, and your fingers get it everywhere. Okay, so we're going to have to let this dry overnight. And what I'm going to do is do this videos in sections so they're not so awfully long. So we'll come back and we'll go ahead and put this part up, and then we'll come back tomorrow and do the next part, which is seeing how the eyes did, but then also we're going to be drilling the mouth and opening that up so we can do some epoxy to make it look like, the drawn in lips. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Take care and see you soon. Bye.